Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's important announcement. I've often spoken about how in Baltimore our small businesses are the backbone of our local economy, and this is not just empty talk. Baltimore City is home to more than 12,000 small businesses. These businesses collectively account for more than 150,000 local jobs, employing mostly city residents. These numbers tell a story. We're talking about the mother in West Baltimore who not too long ago found work at a local clothing shop, or the father who's been employed for years as a worker at a small business manufacturing local goods. Each of them represent a worker in need during these challenging times. Government has a role to play in helping to lift them up and get back on their feet. We are, of course, thankful to our federal partners for their hard work. They have passed a number of stimulus packages that are providing real help to our city, but it's not nearly enough. And here locally, we're going to do our part to help fill the gap. That's why today I'm announcing the COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Initiative. The COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Initiative represents a $5.5 million fund to provide financial assistance to small businesses in Baltimore. This has been a very challenging time for everyone, and the economic impact that has severely affected small businesses and their employees. The $5.5 million fund will be administered by the Baltimore Development Corporation in the following manner. First, the manufacturing and procurement of personal protective equipment as an expansion of BDC and Made in Baltimore's initial grant program. $500,000 will be allocated to provide grants to Baltimore makers and manufacturers providing PPE, and for the city to purchase PPE from these manufacturers for our first responders and frontline employees. Next, the Neighborhood Business Reopening Initiative. BDC will oversee efforts to develop and implement designs to reconfigure public right-of-way and public spaces, to maximize outdoor seating and other businesses' needs, to provide ways to create more social distancing in main streets, retail business, licensed districts, and certain commercial districts. This $1.5 million initiative may include the use of packets, public information, graphic and signage, and design elements to encourage people to patronize local businesses in a manner consistent with public health best practice. And finally, the Small Business Assistance Fund. BDC will administer $3.5 million grant fund on behalf of Baltimore City to provide financial assistance to small business enterprise in certain commercial areas. Businesses may apply for up to $15,000 in grants for expenses such as rent, payroll, and purchase of PPE that may be necessary as they plan to reopen. A portion of this fund will be set aside for businesses which have been unable to qualify for federal aid. SBEs will be required to complete an application to request funding and provide necessary documentation. More information on eligibility and how to apply will be available on baltimoretogether.com. That's baltimoretogether.com by May 4th, 2020. In addition to the $5.5 million fund, I will convene a COVID-19 Small Business Task Force to focus solely on providing guidelines to help businesses reopen without compromising public health once the governor's state of emergency is lifted. I'm pleased to be joined today by the co-chairs of the task force, Councilman Eric Costello, who serves as Budget Director for the Legislative Branch, and Shalonda Stokes, Interim President of Downtown Partnership of Baltimore. Thank you very much, Eric and Shalonda, for leading our efforts in Baltimore. This public-private partnership task force will be extremely important because businesses that had to temporarily close will need to staff up again. And they will need guidance on how to reopen in a safe manner. The COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Initiative and the COVID-19 Small Business Task Force represents the first steps of many in Baltimore's continued recovery and eventually reopening. We have a long way to go and much more work to do to help our small businesses recover. And with that, I'd like to ask Colin Talbot, President and CEO of the Baltimore Development Corporation, to come forward and offer a few remarks.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And really, I'll keep my remarks brief. First, I want to thank Mayor Young for his leadership and his team's assistance in putting together this $5.5 million small business assistance initiative. You know, it's going to go to help the smallest businesses in our neighborhood commercial areas to hopefully get reopened in the near future. And it's very much welcome. So thank you, Mayor Young, for your leadership. The Baltimore Development Corporation, we've been working literally nonstop since the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, and we've been focused on sort of four main components of our response, which has been outreach. So we've launched a Baltimore business survey. We've contacted about 700 businesses through that survey. Second component has been information. So we launched, as the mayor mentioned, www.baltimoretogether.com the first week of the crisis to be able to put up information specific to Baltimore City businesses, and we continue to update that basically daily. The third component was collaboration, and you'll hear more about that as I think hopefully we move into what is and what will be a reopening and recovery period. I believe last week the mayor announced a collaborative network of different technical assistance providers that BDC is helping to coordinate with some foundation funding. Casey Foundation and others are helping with that coordination. And then lastly is action, and we've taken some actions directly within BDC to help some of our existing customers that have loans. But now with this $5.5 million small business initiative, we'll be able to direct dollars to our most vulnerable businesses that need assistance, and we'll also be able to help our commercial districts prepare for hopefully the reopening of businesses over the next weeks, months, however long it takes. And to that vein, we'll be working with partners both on the public health side as well as on the design side. And we'll have some more information on that hopefully in the next week or two. So once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your support. Much appreciated.
Colin, thank you and everyone at BDC for all your hard work and due diligence in moving this critical initiative forward. Before I take any questions, I would like to publicly apologize to the Baltimore City Association of the Deaf. I had a press conference where it was interrupted by some protesters, and I stopped everything because I wanted to make sure that the protesters was heard. Didn't mean any harm to the deaf community. I have a brother that's deaf. Several of my relatives are deaf, and it was no slight to the deaf community. And I do want to offer my apologies, but I wanted the protesters to be heard. But mainly the important information that I had to get out to our citizens. That's why I asked them to stop. So I do apologize for that. I'll take any other questions.
What would be the size of the businesses that could qualify? Is there a minimum and maximum?
Small businesses in Baltimore, you know, we have a lot of them. And like I said, small businesses are the backbone of the city of Baltimore. They are the ones who actually hire local. But I'll let Colin Talbot come up and respond to that. But that's my answer.
Thank you for the question. As the mayor had mentioned, May 4th is a date where we'll have specific information. So we haven't set a specific criteria for the number, either a minimum or a maximum of a number of employees, but the goal is to target the smaller sort of quote-unquote Main Street type businesses.
You mentioned the $3.5 million grant money is available for businesses in certain areas. What areas would qualify?
So again, more information will be provided closer to that May 4th date. Where we are focused is on Main Street's what we call Retail Business District License Areas, RBDLs, and then there may be a few additional commercial areas that we see that are in neighborhoods that might not fall into one of those specific programs that we want to include.
Mayor, what kind of phone calls are you getting here to City Hall about people wanting to reopen and the help? You know, this is a lot of money that'll help a lot of people. What are they telling you?
To be honest with you, I haven't gotten any calls from anybody asking to reopen. People want to feel safe. They want to make sure that the curve is actually slowing. So no one have contacted me. Anybody have contacted you from the business community? We haven't heard from anyone. I think most of the businesses, even though everyone is suffering all over the world, businesses all over the world, I think the main thing that businesses are really concerned about is making sure that they are safe and making sure that they get assistance from the federal government and from local government if they can provide those type of resources. So I think really they want to be safe. They want to make sure that the curve is actually slowing and that they can safely reopen. But no one has contacted me.
The governor's going to release a plan here tomorrow about reopening the state and how what are you hoping that plan looks like?
Well, I would like to see it first before I comment on it because I don't know what it is.
Well,
You know.
what would you like to see, though?
Well, number one, I would like to see more testing of our citizens. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see more test kits coming into Baltimore so that we can test those vulnerable populations. As you know, African Americans are mostly affected by COVID-19, and that's a big concern for me. So I would like to see more testing kits available where people in the city of Baltimore can be tested. That's the important part for me.
All right, Tyler, last question.
Vice President Pence yesterday was discussing in a White House briefing cities that have successfully been flattening the curve. He said Baltimore was among them. Is that the pattern that you're seeing here on the ground?
I'm seeing that, but there's still a lot of people that's not following the social distancing, and they're not masking up. Yesterday, I seen lots of people not holler out the window, "Hey, can you put a mask on?" You know, I ask them, and sometimes they'll have something that's around their neck. And you know, I seen a couple people in Canton. They were actually running, you know, exercising, no mask, and the more people follow what our health professionals are telling us to do, the quicker we can really get out of this.
Is the data so far indicating that we're getting closer to flattening the curve?
We'll have more tomorrow
Is-
when we do our weekly Friday.
Okay, I was going to answer, but
Thank you. This is the last question.
We're getting phone calls that some people have had their cars towed to the impound lot and are not able to get those cars out because it's been shut down. Do you know anything about that?
well, you know, all of that is shut down. Steve's not here, but it's shut down in certain circumstances. We can get workers in there because you know they're not essential workers, you know, and we're trying to protect our employees as much as we can. You know, I'm concerned about, we had 17,000 backlogs in the Public Works Department, and we really cleaned all that up. And now we're right back where we were. So I'm asking the citizen why I have this opportunity to remember that even through COVID, that we have to remain, you know, vigilant and keeping our neighborhoods clean. So I'm asking the citizens to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
They won't get their cars out.
Jeff, thank you.